Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Laura. I'm the recruitment manager at Antwerp Management School, and I'm joined here by my colleague. Yes, so Mark is the academic director of the Master in Finance, which we'll be discussing today. So let's take a quick look at the agenda. We'll start off with a general introduction about Antwerp Management School, which I will do, and then I'll pass the floor to Mark, who will tell you something more about the Master in Finance. Then I'll explain you how our admission process works, and then finally, if you have some questions for us, we are happy to answer them. So we'll do that last. I'm trying to go to the next slide, but I seem to have some problems here. Just 1 second, please. Aha, all right. So this was the schedule for this afternoon, which I already explained to you. Let me pass on to the next one, which is the international recognition. So if you decide to go for a master's, what gives the master's degree value is actually accreditations and rankings. And we are happy to tell you that we are fully AACSB accredited, which is one of the most universal accreditations for business schools. We are also NVAO accredited. That's actually the Belgian government who gives accreditations. So if you would want to stay in Belgium and find a job here, your diploma would of course be accredited as well. Finally, we're very proud that we are ranked by the Financial Times, and for a few years in a row, we've been ranked as #1 in Belgium and number 30 in the general ranking of the Financial Times for our Masters in Management. We're also known to be the world in a school. So we have at this moment 33 different nationalities. And in Antwerp alone, we have 170 nationalities, which makes Antwerp actually one of the most diverse cities in Europe. Not only our students come from all over the world, but also our faculty. All right, so we actually have 9 different master programs at Antwerp Management School. Today we'll be discussing the Master in Finance, of course, but I'm also happy to show you the others. Most of them take place in Antwerp, but we also have a few that are very international that go to New York, Shanghai, Brazil, and so on. And as you can see, we also have some dual degrees. So meaning if you would graduate, you would get 2 master degrees. And the Master of Finance is one of them, actually. But we'll go into that later. So now I'm happy to pass the floor to Mike, who will tell you more about the Master in Finance.
Thank you very much, Laura. As you can see, I'm a professor, Professor Mandeguster. I'm academically responsible for this Master of Finance program, but at the same time, I quite often also work a little bit in practice. Taking a position in a business school, I think this only has enormous advantages because you can actually show as a professor how to bridge actually this gap between theory and finance. Here we see what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit about what the program is about, how the program is structured, why you can actually consider us to be actually the best partner for your further studies, what the career perspectives are, and these kind of things. If I think about our Master of Finance, there are many programs in finance available worldwide. What do you want to do? Do you want to study more accounting? Do you want to study more corporate finance? Do you want to get involved into banking, in risk management, in fund management, in wealth management? These are the questions that you need to ask. Now, the second question you can ask is not only what do you want to do, but are you quantitatively involved, or very quantitatively, or are you more business oriented so that you want to know how you can actually apply financial theory in firms, in fund management firms, in insurance companies, and the like? So these are the 2 questions you have to ask. Now, If you take a look at our Master of Finance, and I'll show you the curriculum in a moment, we are actually a Master of Finance which is relatively global, but we do have focuses, especially on asset management, on wealth management, on risk management. And we do take corporate finance along because we know that for many students, this is basically a startup, or the first time, the first approach they saw when they were entering the finance domain. We are a business school. That's very important. We are going to teach you theory, but we're not going to teach you theory just because of the beauty of the theory, but only because we do need the theory to solve practical problems. In the end, we want to make you problem solvers. Problem solvers that can actually formulate a problem, execute a problem, and present it basically to a board of directors. So the skills that you will acquire are going much further than only knowledge. The computer will be your best friend. If you have a theory and you can't implement it in Excel, or you can't implement it in order to crunch the numbers, well, what are you? A kind of theoretical guy? Well, we want to deliver people that are working for the industry. We're going to do that in a kind of network idea. And you will see that in some courses popping up. The network idea is very important because we will link you to companies that show you also what these companies are thinking of, what their main issues are. And we will engage you in this, I would say, network, so to open your minds, and that is not by coincidence one of the slogans of our school. We're extremely international. You've seen the map which Laura has shown you. But this is also reflected in our Master of Finance program. Perhaps 1 in 4 students, maximum 1 in 3 students are Belgian, but the rest are really coming from all over the world, which gives you an enormous opportunity to work with people from different cultures. Sometimes there might be some annoyance because you don't understand each other, but that's real life. If you work in practice in international organizations, you will have to work with people from different cultures and try to understand them, how they think, how they behave, how they work together. And everyone actually has something to offer there. So we're very international, and we're proud of that. Our program is basically divided, I would say, in 3 modules. A module which goes from, say, September to December. We have the Easter, the Christmas holidays. We have a second module between Christmas and Easter, and we have the final one up to the month of June. That has a big advantage because it means that we can actually close down courses, and we don't spread all the courses over the whole year, but we study a subject within those 10 weeks, which is easy for us then to build up basically a very good pedagogical trajectory for you. The kind of teaching we do is interactive. Our students are sitting there with their laptop. They are doing the things we're doing. They are double-checking things. And you will see the interactiveness results in a lot of questions. Questions because we want to see not only how things are, but how you think about it. We want really you to think as finance people. And that is in the end what we try to achieve. We're going to apply everything. We're going to apply everything, meaning, okay, we might need some theory, but in the end, if you're in a business, you want to make decisions. That's what a business school aims at, making decision makers. And decision makers have to present their reports to a board of directors or to lower boards, but anyhow, you have to present them to convince people that you are sure about your results and that you can motivate them. And otherwise, basically, it will be very disastrous for your career. If we look at our program, then we basically, and I'm just filling in all the blanks, then we basically see these 3 modules. You see the first line is the first module, the second one, the second module, and the last module is dominated by, you see, the master project. You see different colors. If you take the red color, you see basically courses in corporate finance. We start with a case seminar in corporate finance. We go on in the second term with a more empirical course towards raising capital and investing in global financial markets. These courses, they give actually, I would say, or they found a kind of corporate finance pillar. Besides that, we got a next pillar, which is the blue pillar. And you see, perhaps it's a little bit larger, but it is centered towards, I would say, financial markets, towards risk management. We start with global financial markets, leveling people, creating a level playing field. And then we're going to use the knowledge we acquire about financial markets towards investments. And you see advanced investment analysis also in the first module, towards empirical research in finance. And you see, those courses are starting to, well, I would say, interact with each other, together with the course in computer applications, because for us, computers are really key. I mean, you will need Excel, and most people think they know Excel, but we will develop skills also like working with data tables, using the solver, using the goal seek, using functions like the offset function, which are less well known, but which are extremely practical. We even will involve a little bit in VBA programming so that you can write your own functions, which of course creates an extremely good added value. We do link with contemporary issues. We do that in the third term, and we give you also the opportunity to choose an elective between real estate finance on the one hand, for people who want to see how financial concepts are being translated to the real estate industry. And on the other hand, we want to offer a computer programming course because R is a program which is very useful if you have larger data sets. If you're in asset management and you want to study something, say about European markets, you will need something like 6,000 stocks, which you have to follow over a period of 20 years. I don't think if you've got daily data that your Excel will do. So you will need other alternatives. It doesn't mean that we want to make programmers from you. But if you want to be a programmer, well, we definitely will help you. That's the idea. You see also that the master project is a pretty large block. And that is a project where you independently can work on a topic which is actually has practical relevance, but at the same time is academically grounded. Means basically that we're going to, well, ask you to answer a financial question, whether this is now corporate finance or this is investments, doesn't matter. But we're going to ask you, well, to formulate basically advices that you would give to your bosses. The group, for example, nowadays is at this moment is looking at momentum strategies, how they can be implemented, and how can they can be refined. Well, they quite practical research. If you take a look at our program, you can't notice it here, but there are three courses that are special. Global Financial Markets 1 and 2. We've got the course in Raising Capital and Investing in Financial Markets. And the contemporary issues in global finance. Why? Because these three courses are actually also for-them accredited courses. They are courses that we have in our program, but at the same time are actually in an exchange program which we have, in a dual degree program which we have. So if you have these courses, it's basically you obtain already waivers for the American program, for the program, which I will talk about. You see the last point here on the slide, that's about that. We got an agreement with Fordham University and the Gamelli School of Management that our students can actually get a second degree. That's why we call it a dual degree, and get a second degree in Master of Global Finance from Fordham Business School. That is quite impressive, and you can earn that basically over summertime, which means that you're studying for 9 months in Antwerp, and you study then during the summer holidays, a number of weeks in the US, and you finalize basically 3 courses in their program. Why only 3? Well, the global financial program, the global financial markets program in Fordham consists out of 10 courses. 4 of them, which you probably get a waiver because they are prerequisites basically to start our Master of Finance. Then we have the 3/4 accredited courses, which there's already 7, so there are only 3 courses missing. This, of course, is a great experience. You can get actually a dual degree, but as you can understand, the cost of living in Antwerp is much cheaper than the cost of living for a whole year in New York. So you can have actually gigantic ample potential boosting of your curriculum by taking this opportunity. Moreover, if you take a look at our program and you see our rankings in financial times, the accreditations we've got, you actually got great quality for the price you pay of studying here in Antwerp. And at the same time, you can see it is the cradle of a lot of, I would say, culture. So if you like a city trip to Paris, to London, to Berlin, everything basically is within 2 hours, 3 hours of travel distance. Going back to our program, I think I stressed already the balance we have between conceptual things and mathematical things. We will need mathematics, we will need statistics. If you study in a serious way finance, you can't get around it. But the angle is the angle from a business school. We don't derive things just for the fun of deriving. We derive it because we think that at that moment you learn, you have the insights where things come from. But if it's not necessary and we can build it in an intuitive way, well, we're happy to do so. In the end, you're going to be managers. In the end, you're going to be fund managers, you're going to be treasurers, you're going to be whatever, but it will be something finance. We have, besides our program, also what we call our career management service. Career management service is basically an added value. It's an added value because it will give you the opportunity to basically, I would say, improve your curriculum and to improve your communication skills, how to write good application letters, how to do job interviews. These are things which we at least give you the opportunity also to take along those kind of skills. If you see our students, a couple of years later, well, we're always amazed what they did. Uh, and you see people that end up in all areas of finance. 90-95% of my students even go into a financial related job, be it with an auditor, because of the Big Four, we need financial people as well to do all the auditing. Fair value accounting, you need to value a lot of financial instruments. They go into consulting, see McKinsey did on this. They go into banking, be it BNP, be it KBC, be it Commerzbank, and that means also a very huge, diversified range of kind of jobs going from model building to people that are going to treasury, to people that go into fund management, people that even go into insurance, although there is not a very big spread of insurance in our program. They can go to corporates without any problem because their background is better than an average corporate finance degree because they learn much more about how financial markets work, how things are being priced. So in the end, I think that the value we give you is actually an international one towards a very broad range of companies in the financial industry. For the practicalities, well, I'm very glad that you spoke to Laura again.
Yes.
Go, Laura.
Back to me. So now that you know more about the content of the program, you might ask yourself, what is the practical side of the story? So first of all, who are we looking for? We're looking for recent graduates who have a bachelor's or a master's degree, preferably in economics, business, or, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, people who at least had some quantitative courses, right?
Yes, absolutely. But in the past, we also had people who had a law degree. We also had engineers. But of course, this means that you will have to work much harder and that you will get, for example, an engineer will have to get into accounting.
Yeah.
And this is something we then ask you to study a little bit in the months before you start master finance. But it's definitely not, by definition, a no-go.
Yeah.
If you get, but of course, the majority of our students will have a management or an economics background.
Yeah. Okay, and it's mentioned here a 4-year full-time study. We do have students now and then who have a 3-year bachelor and then they have some work experience. So if you don't really fit the 4-year profile and you're curious if you fit the program, then just send me an email. I'll tell you my contact details at the end of the presentation. Send me an email with your resume and then I can give you some personal feedback. Secondly, it's very important that you're proficient in English. So we will ask you to do an IELTS or a TOEFL test. unless you can come to Antwerp and do the interview here, which is part of the admission process. The tuition fee is 12,950 euros. This covers your course fees, it covers the networking events, the career service, but it doesn't cover your living expenses or the costs of the flights here. It also covers one trip abroad with the class. They go on a trip every year. I think it's in the second semester, so accommodation and flights are covered for this one. Ah, yeah, and of course we start beginning of September and we finish in June. Then the next slide, it's actually not just what's inside the classroom, but also what's outside the classroom that should make you come to AMS. So we have an amazing student council. They organize a lot of events every year, like an international dinner, a Halloween party, the prom. It's always a combination of fun things, but also, you know, interesting things. Sometimes they invite a guest lecturer. It's not mandatory, of course, but it's always a really nice experience. Then we have the Google Digital Master Academy. That's completely optional. It's up to you. If you're interested in marketing, you're free to take this course. And then again, you also get a certification. And then finally, we have an international trip in November where we take the students to Dublin to visit Google, Salesforce, HubSpot, and so on. Again, it's optional. You also have to apply for it, but it's always a great experience. Then if you don't believe anything that we're saying, you can also have a look at the student blog. We have our students per program, they write a blog about their experience here at AMS. So please feel free to have a look there. I'll also send this link via email after the presentation. And we have an Instagram, of course. Our hashtag is called AMS Life. So feel free to look us up there and you'll find lots and lots of pictures of life here at AMS. Then this picture is actually a picture of our new building because we are happy to announce that we're moving this summer. We're not moving that far away. It's only a 10-minute walk from our current campus. But we've been growing lately, and that's why we're going to a brand new building, and we're moving in August. So if you would decide to join us, then it would be in this new building. So the application process, how does it work? Well, it's actually 3 steps. The first one is the online application form. So you just go to our website, you go to the Master in Finance, you click on Apply Now, you create a profile, and then you should upload a couple of things. For instance, your motivation essay, your CV, your transcripts, and also a proof of TOEFL or IELTS, unless, as mentioned before, you can come and do the interview here on campus. The second step is the online assessment. This consists of 2 tests, a verbal and a numerical reasoning test. Once you receive the link from us, you have 1 week time to take the test. You can do it online, at home, as you wish. And it's, of course, important that you score within a certain range for this test. And then finally, the last step is an interview. So this would be with the program manager of the program. And this will mostly be about your motivation, your AMS fit. Don't worry, we're not going to ask you any knowledge questions or anything. But really, it's to see if we have a fit with the school. And then 1 or 2 weeks after this interview, you will also get feedback on your admission. So it can go quite fast, all in all. I would say in 3 weeks, we can have the whole process done. The deadline for the application, so if you want to start in September 2018, the deadline for non-EU citizens is the 1st of June. So that's actually almost in 1 month time. For EU citizens, it's August 15th. However, August 15th is actually quite late, so we are flexible in that way, but do know that we work on a rolling admission basis, so that means if it's full, the program, then it's full. And we haven't mentioned it before, actually, but we do work with relatively small classes because we want a lot of interactivity. We also have a personal follow-up with our students. So once again, if you want to secure a spot on the program, it's always better to apply sooner rather than later. So we are coming to the end of our presentation, actually, to the Q&A section. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. We will go through the list and we will answer them at this point. So let me have a look at the list. Okay, so all right. So Abhishek asked about the application process, how long it takes until you get feedback. Normally, if you submit your application online, you should get an email back from us within 2 days, and then you'll be sent the link to the test. And then again, once you did the test, within 1 or 2 days, you should be contacted by one of my colleagues. Of course, do keep in mind these 2 weeks now in Belgium, there's a lot of public holidays, so there might be a little delay in that, but usually within a week we do reply. Um, I understand that this master's in finance is a residential program. Do you have any other online programs? It's a question by Ricardo. We don't have any online programs at this point. Um,
Something we're working on.
Yeah.
We don't have.
Yeah.
We don't have that
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah, but not at this point. Jason is asking, can we work during the course? Well, it's a full-time program, and I think on average you have 25 hours of class per week, which might not sound that much to you, but do know that the hours outside of classroom, you need them as well to prepare group works, cases, and so on. So we don't recommend to combine it with a job. The classes are also mandatory. What some students they did in the past is have like a weekend job or maybe a job in the evening sometimes now and then. But I think more than that would not be possible because you do want to get the maximum out of the program. So yeah.
No, that's indeed
That's
true.
true,
We're quite
yeah.
interactive. You get quite also some reading assignments. You get assignments where you have to work with other people. So working full time and doing a master of finance, I don't think that's a sensible thing to do. You do indeed see people working a couple of hours here and there.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
you can, or
Yeah.
combining still some freelance work they do, but a full time job and a full time master.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to do it seriously,
Yeah.
then you will not have the return from it, the cultural return you actually want.
Yeah, exactly. So another question. Jason is also asking when we can apply for financial support. I'm not sure, but I think you mean the scholarships with this one. Well, we have actually 3 partially funded scholarships of 5,000 euro. You can apply for it, but only if you already submit your application and if you are admitted to the school. So the scholarship is for people who commit to the school and who will join anyway. You can submit an application for this until the 31st of May, so you still have about 1 month to go. All right, then moving on to the next question. Oh, there's quite a few questions coming in at this point. Um, okay, so what about applicants who have had an extensive science background but who have not yet had any formalized business or finance programs? How do they perform academically in the program? It's a question by Abhishek.
It depends. It depends on your motivation. I mean, you know, the background, in a way, it is to see whether you are a mature candidate who is actually understanding the things which we're talking about. Of course, we're using, I would say, some economic and some managerial terminology. I think that's obvious. We're not going to explain to you what inflation is. We're not going to explain to you exactly how a GDP is measured. These are things we almost assume as being known. The same in accounting. We're not going to explain the accounting system if we are doing corporate finance. So we do expect some background. But if you are reading the Financial Times on a regular basis or the Wall Street Journal, and you feel relatively confident with concepts you hear there, well, okay, then I think you're quite fine. We had people, for example, a theoretical physicist who worked for a number of years in the city of London, and then came to us for a sabbatical. And well, he had some experience for sure, but his background was basically physics. It was not really a problem. So, as a scientifically, I would say, informed person, you will not have any problems with the maths we're using. But for you, the struggle will be the economic concepts and the meaning and how you use these concepts. For business students, they well, are more familiar with the terminology, but they struggle then sometimes with the mathematical applications. So that is the big difference. But don't we won't hold it against you. it's something you will learn. What we also see is that people, also from different backgrounds, quite often use a program like ours for actually boosting up their knowledge towards a CFA degree. And you know that the Certified Financial Analysis program, it's a 3-year program, which are exams worldwide. Well, we are preparing people basically for this kind of programs in an excellent way, just because we bring a lot of those things together. So if you feel free and if you've got the spirit, if you've got the enthusiasm, you really want to know something about finance, I think you can learn an awful lot by coming to Antwerp.
All right, Abhishek, I hope this was a good answer to your question. We're moving on now to Ivan. Ivan also had some questions. First of the question is there any Python or big data courses as an option?
No, at this moment, not. Although we've got one of our professors, he's a Chinese guy. So you see, we're not only international with respect to the students, but also with the professors. And he's very fond of bringing that in. But at this moment, no, we don't use Python. You are free to use it if you want to, as an alternative you are, no problem. With respect to big data, there will be a small lecture about that within the contemporary issues in finance class, but at this moment we do not have any lectures really specializing on big data techniques that we don't have at the moment.
All right, and Ivan also had another question if there's any content on fintech or startups.
Well, just the same. So within contemporary issues, that's one of the things which can be covered, but we do not have a full course like say 369 ECPS, which is the devoted subject. No, that not. We will be confronted with them, but not, I would say, extensively.
Okay. All right, so we're moving on to Angie now. Angie is asking if we can describe the type of teaching style of the professors. Is it interactive or more reading based?
No, it's very interactive. It's very interactive, and that's, I think, the extreme strong point. Uh, we ask you to read things, but you will have to present, you will have to go into discussion also with each other. Uh, and that is what, because we want you to learn to express the ideas as well. Of course, we will teach in kind of lecturing style as well, but especially whenever we can do it interactively, let me make small exercise, do things together. Like in computer classes, we do something wrong, you have to figure out what is going on. This kind of style is much more pleasant and is much more useful in school settings. It is quite different from what you find in a lot of universities, because there, of course, the professor just tells a story and they're even not supposed to ask questions. No, with us, it's exactly the reverse. We are going to challenge you all the time to actually ask your opinions, and then, of course, to show you that sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, you win some, you lose some. But basically, that's the way how we go along with teaching. Uh, I don't think it makes sense in a business school just to lecture. Absolutely not. The ideas have to be challenged. That's the thing.
We really try to bridge the gap between university and the business life, the job life. And many students tell us it's actually the perfect transition between those two because when you finish university, they don't feel ready to go out on the job market, find a job because they don't know everything they learned, like how does it work in real life, and that's what we really try to do here. All right, so we move on to Barry, who has a bachelor's degree in mining economics, and what are your chances to get admitted? Well, I think we mentioned it before already. I think the fact that you have a background in economics already gives you some advantage in a way, but of course we look at the total picture. We look at your transcripts, we look at your motivation, your online assessment that you will take, and then finally the interview. So the question, what are the chances to get admitted, is of course is hard to answer. But if you want to get more personal feedback, then feel free to send your CV to me afterwards.
But mining, well, if you're in commodities, that's one of the very big asset classes, a very important one. So it can be very complementary to what your studies were. So absolutely feel free to apply.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, so we're almost there. Linda is asking if we offer any internships and how do we help students find work after that? Well, we don't have an actual internship because we have the master project, as Mark already explained, which is also quite practical, of course.
Yeah, but we sometimes do a kind of internship, but this depends on the kind of project that firms want to launch. Now, within the finance area, you can imagine that some topics are extremely technical. Like, for example, a asset manager asked us a couple of years ago to calibrate volatility surface. Now, if you're not very deep into quantitative methods, this will be very difficult thing for you to do. So this is a project where we cannot guarantee that our students can do that. On the other hand, some the firms they launch projects where they said the data gathering is the most important. Well, we don't want you to 90% of your time gather data and then 10% of your time analyze it. So we are very selective on the projects we accept. We're doing now a project, for example, for Cambria, because they have really a project with Sudgel, and now we bring it into the portfolio of potential projects that students can do. And those who feel interested in the subject, well, they can apply for it with Canada in this case, where there is a good fit. So it's not really an internship. You work together with a firm, but it's not a must. Can be if there are good opportunities that is suitable for you, and where actually, I would say the academic level is good, so that you learn things. Because doing an internship and then doing, I would say, some manual work and gathering some data for them, well, what does it make for you? So we want you basically, or for us, the content of what we do is really at the heart of what we do, because we want pedagogically you to learn as much as you can, so that the return of your time here is optimized.
Yeah. And then to answer your question, how do you help students find a job after they graduate? Well, so we have a career management service, and we organize a lot of networking events where you get in touch with companies. But of course, the responsibility is yours. So there's a lot of opportunities, but it's up to you to take them, of course. But we always have students, international ones as well, who stay in Belgium and find a job here. So we do offer you a lot of networking, a lot of possibilities in that way. Then Linda is also asking, do we need a TOEFL or an IELTS when you have an online assessment? Well, the online assessment doesn't really focus on language. It focuses on the verbal and the numerical reasoning skills. So it has nothing to do with your proficiency in English. So that's why we ask for an IELTS or a TOEFL test. I think we discussed all the questions. In any way, if you still have questions popping up later, feel free to send me an email. I think it's on the next slide. And I'll also contact you afterwards as well. But really, feel free to contact me anytime. My name is Laura. I'd be happy to help you. We can set up a Skype call to discuss your options. If you live close by, you can come and visit the campus, whatever you prefer. All right, so I think we'll finish the presentation here.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
And I hope to see you one day
Yes.
at least at our
Yes.
new campus.
In our brand new building.